First of all, again, welcome and welcome to all participants. My presentation will be split in two parts. Clearly, briefly, considering that we have limited time, having to make this presentation in two parts, there will be some difficulties. The first part will be made up of the slides which will somehow say something about the live demo, and second part is access to that prototype that we've created. Clearly, this presentation starts from the principle that most of you don't know what was provided for within the project. One of the main things to be looked at, is the definition of the terms we used in this project. In particular, those terms, the terminology which we introduced as we moved on, starting from the bilateral agreements by which we mean the international agreements which have been signed or could be signed in the future for the management of the posting of workers among signing countries.
The building company is a company that wishes to post workers abroad, or at least in one of the countries that has signed the agreements that we mentioned before. The exoneration request is the request that is currently filled in by the company to request exoneration from registering workers abroad. Obviously, we talked about posted worker, so the worker who is included in the exoneration request. The organization is one of the signatories of the bilateral agreements that are part of the system, and they are included in the prototype. The sending organization is the organization that considers the exoneration request, and it's generally the legal headquarters, the registered office of the company. So a sending organization could be CNC if the sending in request comes from Italy. The receiving organization is the organization that accepts the exoneration request authorized by the sending organization. As we were saying before, Italian company authorized by CNC that goes to work abroad in France, for example, or in Germany, and therefore the receiving organization is the organization found in that country, such as USCF, for example, or Sarcabal. As you have heard, the UPost Lab project is a project aimed at studying and improving posting, so administrative cooperation within the EU. Amongst the goals, there was the study to implement an IT system to allow for automated management of procedures tied to workers posted abroad. In the last two phases, the project involved, concerning the IT system, an analysis document setting out the rationale and the implementation criteria, and the development of a working prototype of the system. The study that we have carried out started by analyzing the current procedures used in countries that signed the bilateral agreements. Now, obviously, we already had 4 signed bilateral agreements, so we tapped these as our case study, thinking, obviously, that future projects could be added subsequently. So in terms of our timeline, on 12th of April in Wiesbaden, the project was presented, and part of these slides have already been presented on that occasion. On 28th August, the document I mentioned earlier was produced, the analysis document, and it was shared with the project partners. Now, based on this document, we developed this prototype, the working prototype that will be the subject of my live demo. And in the development of the prototype, we also considered the possible additional agreements. So the demo is the hypothesis of what the future might look like if our social partners decided to continue with this project. So, transferring what already exists at administrative level to the IT level. So we obviously set some goals for ourselves, considering that from an administrative viewpoint that the system would be tied to some agreement. So access to the system is tied to an agreement that needs to be signed or to be signed. So we also wanted to retain the autonomy of the various organizations without overturning the world. So each organization retains its rules, its hierarchy, and clearly retains its own procedures. From a technical point of view, we also considered that we wanted to reduce the information, improve the quality of information, at the same time make the information immediately available, immediately after having been acquired. Now, of course, being a circular instrument, even the tracking of operations was something quite important. Last but not least, having a common database that could then be used, as has been the case for other information, as a common basis for statistical analyses. We also set ourselves some constraints, namely to ensure that all the players who will be accessing the system have to access based on their role and competence. We also wanted to reduce, to the benefit of all the interested parties, redundant information. So if information is handled time again, it doesn't need to be entered many times, but just once. For example, an exoneration request, for example, what happens today? It's filled in by the company, the firm, then on paper, then the sending organization authorizes it, and then forwards it to the receiving organization. Then this has to enter it into a system. This is not good. If the information has to circulate, you enter the information once in the system, and then it should be viewable based on one's competence or role within the system itself. And then allow for the importing of existing data to facilitate the creation of users, company users. So to respond to the previous constraints, the information starts off from the firms or businesses. So obviously the businesses are the fulcrum of all subsequent events. So the fact that each organization has its autonomy regarding its users involved that these users within the same organization need to be able to be exported within the system. Last but not least, since we have different countries using have different languages, so we have to have the specialized use of the native languages of individual organizations. So the system needs to automatically recognize the nationality of the user and to automatically display the preferred language. And then, of course, each user can pick a different language amongst those available. As I was saying earlier, the last constraint is to make sure that individual organizations have to be independent in the management of their own users. The various parts that form this solution are basically three. The creation of accounting systems, so user profiling to satisfy project-related constraints, the creation of the UPost Lab web portal that interfaces with the outside world and shared with all the interested parties, and the creation of the UPost Lab DB tied to the portal and accessible only via the latter. So, as far as the accounting system is concerned, these are the users envisaged. We have the system administrator, then we have the authorizing users, i.e. those who authorize authorization requests. So the read-only users, i.e. users who can see what is happening but can't intervene. And then, last but not least, company users. As far as the system admin is concerned, well, it creates, as the system is startup, it creates the organization admin users for each organization, and then it creates all the necessary subsequent users needed. I'm going to just show you a diagram that we viewed earlier, the diagram of the accounting system. So we have the system admin at the top, a rather technical figure that for each organization creates at least one organization admin, i.e. the user, who can then create all the subsequent users. Now I'm going to go through this very quickly because this has been described. The system admin is a technical user, and there's only one system admin, and creates the organization admin. The organization admin, and there can only be one. There can only be one, as in the case of Highlanders, for every organization, and the organization admin can create all the necessary users, namely the authorization users, the read-only users, and company users. One quick note regarding the authorization user, as we were saying before, created by the organization admin, and within the organization, this is the user that can deal with the authorization requests, accept them, change them, or revoke them. Then we have read-only users. We've discussed these. The company users are the users tied to the company. So we have envisaged that within each company, especially in the case of large companies, there can be several users that can file requests. As we were saying earlier, of course, once the organization admin has been created, it's the organization admin that decides to, obviously, according to the instructions established by the same organization, decides on the various other users. So, assuming that the system started, the startup flow is the following. After the system has been started, each organization will receive the organization admins, and with these users, through the UPost Lab web interface, at least one authorization user will be created, and then to allow companies to file requests, the company user will also be created for the companies accessing the system.
The organization, through its own methods, provides the companies the elements which will allow it to have access. In the process flow, which will be the heart of our demonstration, we see that the company having access through its data issued by the organization, the user accesses the system and fills in the exoneration request. We have here foreseen two stages. We'll see that better. The stage where the request has been filled in within the system, but has not been forwarded yet, so the company can change it. And also we provide for the forwarding stage. From that moment on, makes it possible for the request no longer to be changed, or the application no longer to be changed. Once the request has been forwarded, the system automatically identifies the sending organization, so makes it to available the authorization user. The authorization user evaluates the request, so enters the stage that we consider to be kind of fact-finding, and then authorizes the exoneration if appropriate. Once the authorization is being given, the receiving organization is being identified, and this request of exoneration with the information, authorization information, is made available both to the reaching organization, and at the same time it is showed to the company, which can evaluate the fact that that request has been assessed and evaluated and has already been made known to the reaching organization. So it could start the works in all respects. Just to have the pattern here, we've seen the building company here, so the sending organization, the reaching organization. In the flow, here we would need two stages, what I was saying before, the filling in and then the forwarding. But to simplify things, we've shown only one arrow, so the exoneration request is loaded within the module PostLab Web EDB and EDB, and then the request is made visible to the authorization user of the sending organization. Once it is authorized, it is uploaded again on the system. It's easier done than said. So it's downloaded up again on the system, and then automatically it is made available to the users of the reaching organization and the building company. Here we could go quickly on these notes, since we've already discussed them. So I think that now we can move, and thank you, Director, for your suggestion. We can move on the web interface, which is this one, where we're going to have two steps. The first, the one which will quickly show the point of view of the accounts and the routing of the request. So to simulate now the access from admin, you shall consider that's a real application. We are connected to the internet. We are not working on a system. We are working on our portal, PostLab Web. So having access as an administration, we have a rather scarce interface. Who we are on the right top hand side, and then an interface to choose your language, favorite language. And for users, we have the administration, the management. For this demonstration, we have already prepared users, and we have created the chain we were talking about before, the organization admin and the users in the lower chain, read only, and so on and so forth. The admin doesn't see the company user. Maybe, or better, it can see that, but it cannot create them, because it's not the task of the administration to create the company users, but it's the task for each organization. We have created the organization admin, the necessary user, the authorization user, and necessary user for the investigation of the starting of the file, and the read-only user. And this has been done for all of the organizations which have been uploaded and which correspond to the bilateral agreements which have been signed. Now, let's log out admin and let's go to organization admin. No, I don't have it here, so we can go here. Then we could go on. We'll see. Just 1 second. Here we are. Let's say that I entered, in this case, as an application admin of CNCE. The interface is basically similar. This is the organization admin. In this case, the interface is slightly more expanded because we have also the company's management. That's the screen within which the template where companies could be imported or registered for the first time. So it's a very minimal interface, but it's useful to understand what the system could be. That's at the business management. The organization admin has also the users management administration. In this template, we have authorization users, read-only users. Now, the organization admin can choose either company or organization. If they choose company, they can do the matching with the company, including the data, entering the data. If they choose organization, apart from the personal data of the user, they can also choose the role that this person has within the organization. Once we've completed this, we can move on to the entering method. So we're going to do what we said before. Now we get in as UCF user. In this case, I'm a UCF company or business, and as to my exoneration request, presently it's a state which is not forwarded. You see the face, kind of sad face, because the request is ready. So you have all of the request filled in, which corresponds to what's on paper, with 2 workers. So presently we have this request, but we haven't yet forwarded it to the system. Now, we forward it, we confirm the operation, we confirm the activity, and by going back, you can't see very well, the face had a tear, but the state was an AAS in Italy is in the investigation status, so that's a French company. Now, if we enter as authorization user of UCF, what does the organization see? Automatically, we already see a request, so it can be seen in this template. We have a summary between the enters request and the exit. So the authorization user has these 2 items on the menu. One is the folder of the request which must be sent outside, while in this one we have the file or folder of requests from within. So here we are the reaching organization. On the other side, we are the sending organization. We're going to check them all. So we find the famous request made by the UCF company. So the authorization user has access to the same data which was visible in the screen. The company can see the workers and check them, and if it decides that the request is correct, it can authorize. In this case, the authorization user has authorized the request. Now the face has changed its expression. Now we have a smiley face, but if we perform an update of the page, we're working in real time, so the system is working. If we do the updating of the page, the face has changed and it's a smiley face for the company too. In this case, we do know that the request has been authorized, but the reaching organization has not yet taken stock of it. So what do we do? Now we enter as CNCE organization. since that request was addressed to CNCE, and let's go and check in our entry box if we have authorizations. Here it is, we have our authorization, so now we check it, we control it, and we can then enter it within our archive. By doing this, we confirm that we've viewed the request. So we place it within the archive. We file it. Where are they? Where are we? Here we are. That's fine. We've let them in French. We left them so. They are no longer among new authorized requests, and they are within the archive. The face has changed again, and will continue to change for interested subjects. Putting on the sunglasses by saying that reaching organization has viewed it. So if we go refresh of the page authorization user of the UCF, they've seen it has been viewed, and the same is true for the company. If we refresh it on this template, the company too knows about this. So what we've done has been this kind of process which was foreseen in this flow. I do hope I've been clear enough and quite short as well. I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I wish you